Hi guys, my name is Catherine and welcome to my YouTube channel. And I felt led today to share my story. This is a story that I went through and it was about losing my son. So I want to just share how it all started and what I've learned through the years, okay? So in 2010, I met someone and we decided to start a family together. In 2013, I became pregnant, but the pregnancy had its own challenges. So we would go to the sonographer to have checks, and the sonographer gave us some devastating news, say to us that the baby has a medium chance of having Down syndrome. So, this came as a shock, but because we were from a Christian background, we decided, we don't condone killing or having abortion. So we decided, no, I'm sure God can turn things around. And obviously, I'm not saying that people should not listen to the doctors, but, I'm just saying that that is where we were at us in our faith, okay? So later on during the pregnancy, we continued praying obviously through that, but later on in the pregnancy, we went to another appointment, and the doctor, this time it was a doctor who said to us that she could see a hole in the heart. So it was from bad news, now they became worse. And it wasn't very easy. My pregnancy wasn't easy because, I had pains during my pregnancy. And when I asked people, whether people have experienced pain, people said no, their pregnancies were easy, their pregnancies were swift. And I had all these questions, asking God all these questions. And obviously that really gave me the motivation to even get closer with God. I started seeking God more regarding this. I started praying. Obviously, I couldn't fast because I'm carrying a child, but I started praying even the more. So in 2014, in January, my son came, and lo and behold, my son had all these things that they talked about. I mean, the kind of Down syndrome he had, it's not something that you would kind of just look at a child and see that they have it, but he had it. It was not one of those mild ones. But anyway, the plan that we were told is that we wait for him to be 4 months, and then when he's 4 months, his lungs would have grown a bit, and then then the doctors can perform the surgery. So we got to that time. He became poorly even before the 4 months. So I remember at the time, because we used to have these checks every week, at least we'd go to the local hospital for these checks. And I remember one time we went for one of these routine checks, and we had to be blue lighted to the hospital. They said he was very poorly. We didn't even have a chance to go home and get our belongings. This was just a blue light to the hospital, to the bigger hospital in London. So I'm the one that went, and it was from then on, things now just became bad. When I talk about like bad, it would be and obviously this hospital wasn't close to home, so you can imagine the journeys that we had to make. It was a very difficult year. I believe it's one of those times that the Bible talks about when the evil day comes. So our evil day had come. So we stayed in hospital. He was taken to intensive care. They planned to do I believe it was a surgery for putting because his veins, also another thing, his veins weren't very good. So like they needed to do a midline, they called it, just to be able to give him intravenous infusions, but it was not possible. I think they tried the midline, but it fell out. Anyway, fast forward, at some point they said that he needs to have a CPAP. A CPAP is a machine that actually helps someone breathe better, because they're not able, their lungs are not strong enough to breathe by themselves. So they said that they're going to give him a CPAP and oxygen as well. So he was on oxygen, he was on the CPAP. It was just sad seeing my son coming from this little person who was able to smile and I'm able to see his smile, to now being dependent on a machine. And that was a very difficult, if I tell you it was difficult, I don't even think words are enough to tell you how difficult that year was, because I was also a student. at the time, and you know, we had to stay in hospital for some time. So it was just one thing after another, one thing after another. So I think the plan to do the surgery was abandoned altogether because he became too unwell. We prayed, we prayed, we prayed. Like there were just prayers after every day. There was not a day that did not go without prayers being made to God. And it felt like God wasn't even hearing my prayers. You know, if I tell you how much I prayed during that time, oh my gosh, like I've never prayed like that in my life. And God gave me people to pray with. You know, He gave me a lady called Veronica. He gave me a lady called Halima. You know, my family prayed with me. Pastors prayed with me. I went to Hillsong Church, and our pastors. I remember there's a time we called our pastors to dedicate our child, and Pastor Delphine and his wife came. Pastor James Moyle, they also came. Like these are people who really he saw us through, like the people who really held our hands through the whole process, because it was not an easy journey. And I really just want to thank God for them, because you know, there are times, I think sometimes you understand the church you're in, especially from these things that from going through difficult journeys. That's when you understand the church that God has given you. So fast forward, I remember there are times when we were discharged home, and then we have to go back to the hospital again because he's become too unwell. Ethan has become too unwell. And there are times I've also seen the doctors having to resuscitate him, you know, because he became too unwell as well. As in, like this, if I tell you, my journey was so difficult, guys. Like you have no idea. But I think also being in this specialist hospital in London, it also opened my eyes to see how other kids are. Like there are kids who are also like my son, but there were also kids who were much way worse. You know, people who were disfigured, people who were disabled. Like they were. I believe God opened my eyes to see that even where the enemy just tries to whisper to you that this condition is exclusive to you, this condition is exclusive to only your child. You know. The enemy tries to make you feel like you're just suffering here by yourself, but believe God was just opening my eyes to see that I'm not the only one, and even just to thank him for the life that my son had, because others were in way worse conditions, you know, where these kids have become big and now they become too heavy for their parents to even look after them. So for me, I took home, you know, even after we were discharged, I took home such big lessons in life. So anyway, at some point now we were discharged home from the big hospital, now to be managed by a local hospital. But before I go there, I also want to thank the Ronald McDonald House charity. Because we lived so far, the Ronald McDonald House charities allowed us to. They provide accommodation for people, so they allowed us to stay near the hospital so that we can be seeing our child often. I want to really thank God for them. I also want to thank Shooting Star Chase. This is another charity that allows disabled kids to be able to use facilities, you know, like the swimming pools, which are modified for them. People who are using oxygen can also use this. I just want to encourage people out there, if you know, support charities, support things like this. I do support them, and continue supporting people like these charities so that they can continue to do the good work that they're already doing. I think before that, I didn't understand the work of charities until then, and now obviously I like supporting people as well, and charities similarly, and charities. Where were we? So yeah, they discharged us back home, and then a few months after that, and this, like I said, you guys, this is happening between January to October. All these things, it's not even a year, but we went through so much. You know, I think he stayed in ITU for months on end. And so eventually we were discharged home, and he needed more oxygen. I think I remember at some point myself and I think this is going back to July or something like that. July, myself and my ex, who was my partner then, we broke up because of irreconcilable differences. We broke up. It wasn't just for the child, because of the child who was unwell, but we broke up because of other reasons. So he went his separate way, I went my way. We shared looking after the child between us. So this one day, he was meant to look after the child. So at some point, I think he became unwell, and he called the ambulance, and the ambulance took him to hospital. And this is how my child died. Like, they couldn't resuscitate. Obviously, they tried to resuscitate him. And I believe also, I feel like sometimes looking back, I feel like that was also a way that God was looking out for me, because I had looked after him obviously for so long. It was difficult to even go out with my son. Sometimes I relied on friends. Friends like I have a friend called Andrew. Andrew used to do some shopping for me because he was a neighbor. He didn't live very far. He'd do some shopping for me and just bring it home, because like I said, guys, it was so difficult to even be able to shop with him. Because I had to carry the oxygen, I had to carry the CPAP machine, which is heavy in itself. I had to carry the child. So even if I have the shopping trolley, I can't really carry much. So I want to thank people like him who God used to stay with, to help me out. I'm just remembering whether I'm forgetting anyone else. I mean, there were a few people, and sometimes I think even when you're going through these journeys, somehow your friends disappear. You don't even know where they go. Like, people who you think would have been there for you, but they're just not nowhere to be seen. So sometimes don't be disheartened, because I believe that God also sends you other people who you didn't think would be there for you, but they are. So so back to now, my son being in hospital. My ex called me to tell me that I need to come to the hospital as soon as possible, which I did. But my son had passed away at the time. So yeah, so I don't know. I just remember being so numb. I mean, I cried at the time, but I was just thinking, you know what, God. In fact, I felt like I was blaming him, like, it's your fault this has happened. I mean, we prayed. Did you even hear? I used to ask myself, did you even hear our prayers when he was pregnant? We prayed. Even when when he was born, we also prayed. I felt like my prayers are not, there's a ceiling that they were not going through. But, I believe, I remember even when he was pregnant, this time I was in hospital, I remember just seeing some demonic activity in the spirit. And I remember just seeing so many things that were happening in the spirit. And so I think this now reminds me in the book of Daniel, where Daniel prayed regarding the Israelites, and he was seeking God regarding for the 21 days. And the Prince of Persia was blocking the angel Gabriel from delivering the news to the Israelites. And it was only until Angel Michael came to help him, so that he can deliver the news to Daniel. So for me, because I didn't know that then. All I remember, because this is something I later learned, like maybe in the last 2 years, but during that time, I didn't know how the principalities work, how the kingdom of darkness fights the kingdom of light. I was just a new Christian. I wouldn't say I was a new Christian, but I was learning the spiritual things then. But all I'm saying is that, my son's death has taught me so much. I mean, I even thank God that I can even speak to you now, because at that time I just couldn't. Like, I felt let down by God. I felt like, God didn't even see me. I felt unwanted. I felt like I was, this thing only just happened to me. But what can I say? Like, God sees. I'm just saying, if I'm forgetting anything, God sees us, and God sees every pain, every tear that we've had to go through. And the lessons I learned through this whole thing is for us not to get stagnated with this world, because sometimes I think we can be praying for long life. We can be praying for this, that God heals us, and God does this, and God does that, and we forget that our destination is in heaven. It's in heaven. like we very much stagnated on this earth, and what God has been teaching me is that let's not get stagnated on this earth. This will pass away as well, and we're going to come back in new bodies, like, and I remember during after now my son has been buried and everything. I remember this one lady coming to telling us in church, a white lady who was sitting behind us, telling us in church. It was me and my partner then, telling us in church, your son, God is telling me to tell you that your son is in heaven. We didn't know this lady. She didn't even know that we had lost a child. I believe it was just God telling her to tell us, or a word of encouragement that our son is in heaven, because I think we were distraught when we were down. Like if it was so hurtful, having to go through that. Another reason I also want to share another lesson I want to share. Is that God comforts his people. He comforts us by sending us people. He can use his Holy Spirit to comfort us. Also, not everyone will be there for you when you're going through difficult times. Even your friends may desert you. Some friends I lost during that time. But that's okay, because God gives you other people to be there for you. Okay. Sometimes even some churches that you go to, some pastors will might make it difficult for you to even be able to see a pastor to pray for you. But don't be disheartened. God, like I said, God will always send you the right people in your life during that time if you ask him. And also another lesson that I've learned is that it's okay to be angry. God cares about you. You cannot cast all your cares to God. I remember, I think after my son passed away, there's a time I just didn't want to pray. I felt like, God has let me down. God did not hear me. This is not the God of the Bible that we see him raising up the dead, but God still hears all our prayers, because later on God has healed me in the most amazing ways that I didn't even know that I'd be healed. Now looking back, I know that my son was healed, even if the healing didn't come from the way I wanted. Being in heaven, for me, I feel like it's healing, because I like, if I tell you in my situation at the time, I just stayed at home. Like I could not even go out. I felt like I was housebound, and I'm not usually a person who wants to stay in the house all the time. Like I want to go out, I want to do other things, but this, for me, this was healing even for me, because I felt like I'm just indoors and doing nothing else except looking after my son. So I feel for me, God healed him in that way, by removing the pain, removing, all this. Because sometimes I would remove the mask from his face, and he starts getting all agitated, because that had become a source of comfort for him. So that would hurt me. That would pain me as a parent, as you know. That really pained me a lot to see my son going through that. I want to thank people like, I have a few people I want to thank. I want to thank people like Maya for drawing me pictures about Ethan. I want to thank Halima. I want to thank Sister Veronica. I want to thank Andrew. I want to thank Delphine and Angela. I want to thank Pastor Chris Mickelson of Hillsong. I want to thank Angela as well, my niece Angela, for just comforting me as well. So and also another lesson that I've learned is that not to get bitter, not to get to become unforgiving, because sometimes we feel like we're not going to forgive God, as if he needs our forgiveness anyway. Because I felt like, I felt like if you've taken my son away, then I'm not going to forgive you for this. But he doesn't need our forgiveness. We're the ones that need his forgiveness. So don't let these negative emotions, because the enemy tries to this is one of the ways that the enemy does. He brings negative emotions for us, for him to bring even, things, putting depression in us. And I want to thank God, because he has really kept my mental health. Even during that time when things will look like they were going downhill, God sustained me. Like this is the biggest miracle of all for me. God sustained me where I thought the world was going haywire, because I have a relationship that's broken down. I have now a child who I'm burying. I felt like I was in a little circle by myself, but God helped me. You guys, God helped me. I can't tell you how much, I can't tell you enough how much God has helped me through it all. So just pray for resilience. I think I would also say, like, pray that God would help you overcome everything, because when he gives us resilience, then we know we can fight another battle and win. And today I was encouraged to read the book of Psalms 18, which reads, "It is God who teaches my hands to make war, so that my arms can bend a bow of bronze. You have also given me the shield of your salvation. Your right hand has helped me up. Your gentleness and has made me great. You enlarged my path around me, so my feet did not sleep. You have pursued my enemies and overtaken them. Neither did I turn back again until they were destroyed." That is what has led me to this to record this, because this is what God gave me today. I felt like he's the one who just helps us to make war. In fact, if you read the whole of that psalm, it's really going to encourage you in what God is doing in our lives. He's the one who gives us the neck of our enemies, so that I destroy everyone that hated me. These are our enemies now. He's the one that is arming us with strength for the battle that is ahead of us. He's the one who helps us through everything. So just read Psalms 18 and let it encourage you, because now, my God, I'm sure I don't look like anything I've been through, but it's because of the help that I received from him. It's not my own strength. His spirit has helped me. His spirit has kept me. His spirit has empowered me. His spirit has overshadowed me. And I can't do anything without his spirit. It's never my strength. It's not my own power. I know it's not, because for me, I couldn't do anything. For me, if it was left to me, I would probably be somewhere depressed or feeling sorry for myself. But now I've picked myself up. He's helped me to pick myself up. And I can walk with my head held high because of what he has done for me. I hope you encourage. Just comment in the comment